Hey, well, welcome along to my channel. Thanks for joining me in my living room today, because that's how we're going to do this. And if you're sitting in your living room, hey, great. I'm going to talk. I'm going to share about my life, what's happened. The whole channel here is based on being refired, retired and refired. Many events happened to me and probably happened to you as well. So really, I want to just chat away to you. They're not going to be long videos, but hopefully they're going to be helpful. My journey perhaps is going to help your journey. Maybe you're at a point that, maybe you're facing the things that I faced. I want to tell you how I got through them. So welcome along, grab yourself a cup of coffee, sit with me for a while, and don't forget, subscribe. I'll put the thing there, subscribe, because that way, then next time I come on, you'll be alerted and we can chat some more. Okay, let's go back to 2021. I was in Auckland, New Zealand, living in an apartment with my wife. And we did a whole lot of 25 odd years beforehand of mission work. I can talk about a lot about that in the coming videos, but I want to pick up on this particular event at the end of 2021. So it was right in the middle of the COVID season. So we all know about that one. I had this little lump on my neck. It had just formed and it didn't really seem to bother me and it didn't seem to be anything. So I went round to my daughter's house, who was also living in Auckland at the time. And she said, "What's that on your neck?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know. This is me. Maybe it's you. Hey, I don't know. I just can't be bothered. It's nothing." Anyway, yeah, I wasn't that kind of person that was going to get worried. She said, "You better get that checked out." And it was kind of like a swollen node here. Anyway, I did. On her advice, I went along to the doctor and they said, we better check this out. Anyway, I ended up having a biopsy. So they biopsied part of my neck and it was found to be cancerous. It was what they call mantle cell lymphoma. So there I was, just heading up to the age of 65 and never had anything in my health issues in my life. And suddenly there I was, mantle cell lymphoma. So I did a few more tests and yeah, basically they said, "We've got treatment available for you. It means chemotherapy for 6 months and we can reduce this down. And then what we'll do is a stem cell transplant." That sounded right scary. It's like, what? Does that mean I've got to get bone marrow from somebody else? No, it's called an analogous. So what happens is they take your own stem cells. Stem cells are the things that they grow in your bone marrow. They produce the red blood cells. They produce the cells continually inside the bone marrow. So what happens is when that gets attacked, they have to get some new ones, and then basically they're going to put it back into my body. That was the plan. And I was like, okay, this is like wild. My daughters were like, "What? This can't be happening," because these things didn't happen to me. Maybe you're in the same boat. Stuff doesn't happen to you. Guess what? It can. And it did for me. So anyway, that's happened. So there I was facing this trauma. It battles with your mind, it plays with your head, because you then get all sorts of scenarios. Oh, well, that's it. I'm done. I'm finished. Oh dear, what's this going to look like? Oh no, I've heard so much about chemotherapy. Oh, should I do it? Should I not do it? Should I take my chances? These are real questions. And it's your health and it's your body and it's your choice. So you've got to decide. I decided. I'm a believer. So I prayed, I talked with my wife, I chatted with the physicians, I weighed everything. I'm kind of like that. I weighed all the options. I said, okay, what's the deal? They said, well, you've got to be healthy enough. Here's the irony. You have to be healthy enough to do the chemotherapy. Yeah, right. So I got cancer, but I got to be healthy enough to actually take the chemo. But I was. I did a number of lung tests and other tests, and they said, yeah, you're good to go. So anyway, I started this treatment. Now, the treatment in New Zealand didn't cost me. It was actually covered under the medical coverage in New Zealand. So that was a plus. So I thought, okay, well, I felt, yeah, go ahead with this. All the doors were open. It was green light. Let's do this. So I began. So what happened was it started in the end of 2021. I started 6 months. Every month I was in the hospital having a huge bag. I forget the name of it, a chemical name. Big bag, took 2 hours of transfusion of this chemical into me. And then every other week, at the end of a 3-week cycle, I think it was, I had to have a day in hospital because they put in a lot more, and then that was stronger. So I ended up with a day and a night in hospital and with these stuff being put into me. That was gruesome. That one I reacted to. The other ones I didn't react to. So don't be afraid if you're facing chemo. Don't be afraid of it, okay? Your body is a lot more resilient than you think. And a lot of it is in your mind. Get your mindset correct, because I had to get my mindset correct. Okay, this is treatment. It's going to work. Might feel a bit rough afterwards, but I'm going to get through this. So that was it. I set off with a positive mindset. You know, it wasn't the end. I'd gone through that trauma. Okay, I'm on a journey now. I'm on a journey of recovery. I'm doing this. Let's get this done. So I did. It was rough. The second ones were rough. First ones weren't too bad. You just get weary and a bit, groggy, lack of energy, stuff like that. But the second one was brutal. And that caused a lot of reactions inside of me for 2 or 3 days. I was pretty bad. And then I pressed on. Anyway, over the course of this 6-month treatment, where we were heading was at the end of the 6 months into the June of 2022, I was going to have this stem cell transplant. So I was working my way through these, the chemo treatment. Round about in February and March, I had to go and have the stem cells taken out of myself. So what happens is I get injections, they stick injections into you, they create more stem cells. So your body, it helps creation. They had to get 2 million plus. So they needed 2 million stem cells, and they were going to take them from my body and freeze them in liquid nitrogen, ready for the day that I had the transplant, and they put them back into me. So I had to go down to the medical clinic. They put one huge big thing in this arm, went through a machine, and they put the other side back in that arm. So what happens is they took my blood out, centrifuged it through a machine, and then back in the other arm. And they said it could be you could come back numerous times. I managed to do it in 2.5 hours. They got 2 million stem cells. So I am very grateful. Listen, I praise God. I rejoice that, everything worked that way, and I only had to have one sitting for that. So they got my stem cells into a container and they froze them ready for the day. So the day came. I'm cutting down to 6 months. Trauma going through, tiredness, weariness, but overall I was okay. I wasn't too bad. I started, losing hair. Yeah, I know, no comment. But what little bit was there disappeared. And so you end up losing the hair around your body everywhere. So, hey, I became a smoothie. So that happened. And then the actual transfusion was a 21-day. I have to think for a second. It was a 21-day hospital stay, because the reaction afterwards, they need to monitor me 24/7, because that's the crucial time. So in I went on the June the 2nd. So that was my 65th birthday, was on June the 7th. So I was in hospital for my 65th birthday, getting ready. They did a final chemo injection. It was a tiny little tube, these big bags that I'd been having. And I thought, oh, what's this? It was about that long. There's a little injection was set up, and it just slowly injected into me through this line that they had placed into my arm. And yeah, that was brutal. I had to suck an ice cube. Throughout the whole process, I had to suck an ice cube for 8 hours. So I had non-stop supply of ice cubes stuck in my mouth. If you look at my first video, you'll see one with me with an ice cube in my mouth. So my mouth was totally frozen because the reaction to the chemo is pretty brutal, and it can cause blisters in your mouth. It's like fire. So if you suck ice cubes, apparently it helps. So I non-stop sucked ice cubes. Have you ever sucked an ice cube for 8 hours non-stop? Yeah, I had to do that. So I was just constantly sucking ice cubes, couldn't talk, did nothing, just sucked ice cubes. And then this thing went in, and whoa, did that react. That was brutal. Within like 6 hours, that was it. I couldn't eat for 10 days. They kept trying to give me food. My body wouldn't take it. I couldn't, I couldn't do it. It just would not receive any food. So that was the brutal part of the chemo. So, I'm just being real. That's what it's like. And so, but that last little injection was the most powerful that you get, And with chemotherapy, it kills the good cells and the bad. So what happens is you end up, hence the reactions that you get from chemo. So I was in the hospital, pretty much rough. And I lost a lot of weight while I was in there during this season because I didn't eat for 10 days. So I went down in weight. Finally, I began to feel like I could start eating again. And then they set the transplant day for June 28th, 2022. So that was the transplant day. So I was picking up a bit more now. They said, yep, you're ready. They constant tests, constantly testing everything. They took me into the room, and there was the stem cells in this big black barrel. If you look at my intro video, you'll see a picture of it. There's a black barrel with my stem cells in there, which are red. And again, I put it on the intro, the little photograph. There's a little bag with a bag of red stem cells, 2 million plus, which are going to come back into me. And that was the deal. So I had that transplant. That came back in, and I then recovered again for the next 3 or 4 days. Then I went home. That was the cancer journey. All right. It only just begins. You get over that part, and then perhaps it just begins, because this is the beginning of the rest of your life. And it's all about your mental attitude. I'll tell you, it really is. My physical body took it, rough days, some rough moments, but I then started to recover. And so this was from June. What happened is then, as I was recovering, beginning to get my appetite back, feeling a bit better, thinking, okay, well, I'm here. I'm still here. I'm going to tell you one more event, and then I'll wrap up this first video. One more event that happened in the hospital. For those of people who are of faith. If you're not of faith, and if you're not a believer, well, hey, take a time. Here's my challenge to you. Why don't you just say, hey, God, if you're real, show me. Try that. See what happens. So anyway, what happened was, coming up to the November was the next stage of the thing. I was just recovering, and my wife gets diagnosed with cancer. That's the next video. How on earth do I get through this next? You get hit with a baseball bat, and then you think you've missed the swing of the second baseball bat, and it comes at you again and whacks you around the head. Yeah, this was the second whack. And I'll talk about the second whack next time. One more thing. I'll finally wrap up with this. So in the hospital, there I was, and I was like, okay, I don't even know if I'm going to see tomorrow. I was feeling rough. This was a rough on the last round of chemo. I thought, well, if I wake up, sleeping was a problem. But if I eventually go to sleep, I thought, well, if I wake up, I wake up. If I don't, oh, well, I've had a good run. You'd be surprised how your mind and body reacts when you're in that situation. And so I said, I resolved myself to whatever happens. But I was believing. Like I say, I'm a believer. I believe I have life and health, and I believe recovery. I believe in healing. Anyway, the one thing that happened to me was when I was in the hospital, and this was one of these more days that I was going to go, well, okay, I don't know. And I talked to God, okay, and I said, well, if this is it, Lord, I often say Lord, I often say Jesus. Sometimes I say Holy Spirit. It depends. They're all, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And what happened? I said, Jesus. Jesus, this is my time. Well, that's it. It's been great. I'm a father. I've got 2 daughters. I've been married, for 43 plus years. I've traveled the world. I'll share some of that stuff. I've been all over the place, and I thank God for the life I've had, and it's been great. And if it's my time, that's it. And what I heard, and sometimes when we talk about hearing God, people hear in different ways. It's not like this voice booms in my ear. No, I hear inside my soul. I hear in here. What happened was I heard, I am with you. And that was it. Was all I heard. I am with you. And I'll tell you what, I got such an amazing peace. The peace flooded my soul. The peace just came upon me, which you can't understand. The Bible talks about peace beyond understanding. And yeah, this was it. But I knew I was peace, and I was safe in his hands wherever that was going to end up. Anyway, I did wake up the next day. As you see, I'm here. This was in June of 2022, and we're now sitting in June of 2026. And it's a lot different. I'm in a different country. I'm in a different place. I'm doing a whole heap of things because I got refired from this stage. Even the second baseball bat whack I'm going to talk about next time. So for this time, I'm done. So if you've drunk your coffee, great stuff. You can get on with your day. Thanks for joining me in my living room here today. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk. If you've got any comments, by the way, look, if you've got any questions, there's so much to cover, and I'm not going to spend hours and hours and hours talking through everything. But if you've got any questions, you want to hear something else about that particular part of my journey, pop it in the comments below. And I will answer every single comment as best I can. And then I will also try and make another video to answer any questions that come up. So wherever you are today, wherever you're listening, whatever stage you're at, know something from this guy sitting here. You don't retire. You just get refired. See you next time.